Hey, this is Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. When you have an opportunity, you got to listen to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
You are listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Sealed of Approve Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I am joined not only by Mike today, but we have a special guest, don't we, Mike?
Oh, do we ever? Like we talked about last week, I said this was one that we were looking forward to for a long time, a favorite of both Tyler and I. This man is a true Renaissance man in and out of the ring, a legendary professional wrestler, a dedicated public servant, a respected philanthropist. Brian, you've left your mark on every arena you've ever stepped in. He's held championships across the NWA territories, currently serves as the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club, and is one half of one of the most underrated tag teams in the history of professional wrestling, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, I'm talking about the Killer Bees, and we are joined by the one and only B. Brian Blair. Mr. Blair, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Tyler. It's awesome to be on your podcast, Count It Out. I've heard a lot of nice things, and my partner has been on here before, Jumpin' Jim, whom I love dearly, and many friends of mine have talked about what wonderful hosts you guys are. So I'm looking forward to the time spent with you.
That is high praise. That we appreciate that. Thank you so much. We're going to start off right away with this thing right here.
All right.
Truth be told, that's two B's, that's two E's in the B. What an amazing title. That's a great title. Folks, you can get that at Amazon. I picked this up at Amazon real quick. I had it in less than 24 hours. You can pick that up on Amazon. This is a huge, beautiful book written by Brian. I want to talk about that for a second, Brian, because this book easily could have just been wrestling stories. Your life is in wrestling alone. It's extremely interesting. You've done so many cool things. That's all this had to be. But you've gotten very, very personal with this book. On the very first page, you start talking about your arrest on Father's Day several years ago. You hit on the tragedy of the loss of your son. Why do you feel it important to get that vulnerable and open with your fan base?
I've always been honest with whomever I was around that befriended me or I befriended them. I enjoy I have so many friends that started out as fans and just became friends, and I have so much love for people that we all go through hard times, and you have to go through good times to appreciate. You have to go through bad times to appreciate the good times.
Yeah.
And I figured I'd share some of both, and I don't mind, because everybody else has got things that sometimes they're afraid to speak about or mention to others, and so it's just a way to help others realize that we're all human.
I absolutely love that, and I'm not going to lie to the fans. I'm just as big as honesty as you are. I haven't gotten through this thing yet. It's full of this man's amazing career. I'm only halfway through, but what I've read so far, you're very articulate. The book is very well written, very well praised. You've been given awards from the Observer and other things. You have amazing people that jumped on. The forwards are done by your good friend Steve Kern and Bret Hart. Why was it important to you to get people like your good friend Hulk Hogan as well? Why was it important to get these guys involved with the book?
Well, they're all close friends, and when I told them I was writing a book and asked them if they'd write the forward and asked Hulkster if he'd write the after forward, that was just like absolutely. And I'm very appreciative to them. Great people. But you can also, if somebody wants a book autographed, they can go to the killerbstore.net, and I send it to them autographed, and or Amazon. But it was a kind of a journey of the heart, so to speak. It took quite a while, a couple of years to write the book, and it's a lot of memories. As I mentioned to you before we were on air, I probably have enough material for two more books, but
Wow.
I know my friend Steve Kern. He wrote the Kern Chronicles, and
Yeah.
he wrote it in two. And our author Ian Douglas, I have to mention Ian Douglas. Without Ian, neither one of us or many other people that have written wrestling biographies, Ian is the best. When you talked about the grammar and putting things in proper context, that's Ian Douglas. Does a tremendous job.
I'm really looking forward to reading the Current Chronicles. That's I was gonna say next on my list. That might be next on my list.
You'll enjoy him.
We have another gentleman we're not going to talk about right now coming on the show in a few weeks, and I have his book to read. And then I'm going to get into the Current Chronicles. There's so many great wrestling books out there. What was the process like you getting down with Ian and reading and writing this book?
Well, I got interrupted because I got osteomyelitis, which was really difficult. And honestly, when it came out, they didn't know if I was going to live or die. I was in the hospital. They had made sure I get all my affairs in order because the osteomyelitis had not only eaten through my spine, it had started to travel into other places in my body. And it's a severe poison. And nobody wants it. It's the worst pain on earth. There is no pain even close to osteomyelitis. You can stab a sword and you get shot by a bullet. You can do anything, and there is no pain like osteomyelitis. It's like the way the doctor described it, it's like a bunch of Pac-Men just eating your bone, just gnawing at you and continuously. So it's like somebody's pom, 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 just stabbing you. And yeah, quite frankly, I wanted to meet my maker. And it you know, Ian, I had most of the stuff before I went to the hospital. All the words, actually, I had more stuff, and Ian kind of put it into order, and I got a proof, but I just really couldn't read through it, and I just said, okay, Ian, without even proofing it, I said, go ahead and publish it because I may not be able to read it, and God gave me my life, and all is much, much, much better now.
Wow. I didn't know any of that. I'm very glad you're here to enjoy the fruits of your labor here because it is an amazing book so far. Tyler, go ahead because I will completely take over this interview if you let me.
Well, I mean, Brian, there are so many different areas that we can start with here, but I want to talk about some of the current things that you're working on. And I'd love to talk about your role as the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club. And if you could kind of just explain for any of the listeners that don't know what this amazing group is and kind of what you guys do and just the overall statement of the Cauliflower Club.
Cauliflower Alley Club is the only 501c3 not-for-profit on the planet that helps talent from the wrestling industry that fall on difficult financial times, even if it's a referee or ring announcer, as long as they made a living in the business, preferably a full-time living. We do help independent guys, not quite as heavily as we do the guys that made a full-time living, but we help lots and lots of people. As a matter of fact, we've given away just since our last reunion in August, we've given away over $85,000 to 46 different individuals, I believe. So we help a lot of people. You can join the club. You can go to Cauliflower, like the vegetable alley, like behind your house, club. .org, caulifloweralleyclub.org, and you can join for $35. I think it's $45 in Canada. And you also get four copies of our newsletter every year. It entitles you to go to the reunion. This year's reunion is August 18th, 19th, 20th, but we actually have wrestling event on the 17th of August at the Plaza Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. And I mean, we help a plethora of people and we don't mention their names. So everybody that joins the club, you don't have to come to the reunions. You'll still get the copies of our newsletter, but you are helping those that entertained you, those people that, really bled, sweat, and cried to make a living to entertain everybody, including myself, and because I'm a big wrestling fan. And I appreciate every one of those people. I could have never made a living without them. Whether, even when the territory days, I might wrestle in Florida and never get to Portland, for example. But, Roddy Piper, who was raised in the Portland territory, that's where he really got his biggest start. And, we became super friends in New York. So, you're just and when you were in a territory, you were always working hard to leave it good for the next person to come along. Then you had an opportunity in the next territory. Now it's kind of like going from, if you're not on the independents, there's a few places to go, but really WWE is the biggest show in town still. And of course, not to take anything away from AEW or TNA or any of the other wrestling shows, but I love the business, and we've got a lot of great volunteers. We're not only an organized 501c3, we have an attorney, we have accountants, we have we are all volunteers. Every dime goes to the cause, to helping somebody, other than we have to pay the attorney or the accountant or buy ink or letterhead or whatever that case may be. But nobody makes a nickel. We all do it out of the gratitude of our hearts, and I've been doing it now for 11 years. It's heartwarming, some of the stories. And I mean, gosh, we've saved Paul Orndorff's home, so many homes. I mean, Brickhouse Brown had cancer and he couldn't afford chemotherapy. We took care of his chemotherapy. Berserker is recently, and I say these names because they've given us permission to, but Berserker, he's a big guy and he got osteomyelitis in one of his legs, speaking of osteomyelitis, and he's still not out of the woods and getting his leg cut off. And, John Nord, big Berserker. And so he really needed a wheelchair that he could not afford, because the wheelchair to get his big butt around was $5,500 without the batteries. And so
Jeez.
batteries were almost $1,000. So,
Wow.
but now he's so happy, when he got, and that's what keeps us going at the CAC. They pick up the phone and call you. Oh man, this is the happiest day of my life. I can actually get around or whatever. I don't have this bill collector calling me, or I feel good knowing that my husband's going to be buried properly. Or there's so many different reasons that we help people. But again, we have a great crew. Darla Staggs checks people out to make sure everything's on the up and up. Rich Engling's our EVP. We have Vance Nevada, Canada, who is a tremendous asset to our board. He does all the ears, the newsletters, which is entitled The Ear. I need to grab you one. What's it? There you go. This is a cover of our
That's cool.
latest newsletter, The Ear, for the Mick Foley roast, which is going to be great on Monday, the 18th of August. We have 8 legendary comedians and 8 legendary wrestlers that are all going to be roasting Mick. So
man.
it makes a great guy. I just got off the phone with him earlier as well. He's just got done doing another comedy show. He's always on the road constantly, and he has been one of CAC's biggest givers. He is a philanthropist through and through. Mick Foley is, I can't say enough nice things about Mick Foley.
I did enjoy the fact that he's on the cover of the book called The Ear as well.
Right. I was thinking that too.
Yeah, with his ear, right?
That's it. Right. I'm really curious. How did you first get involved with the Cauliflower Alley Club?
I first got involved. Buddy Colt asked me to be his presenter when he was inducted into the CAC Hall of Fame back in, what was it, like 1995. And I really fell in love with it. It was like an organization where you had lots of wrestlers and lots of fans. It wasn't like a fan fest. It wasn't, it was unique, and that's why it's called a club. You have to be a member. Nobody there is not a member of the club. You can't be there. I don't care if you're selling Cracker Jack, whatever. You can't be there unless you're a CAC member. And again, we make that affordable. $35, $45. If you wanted to join for a lifetime, it's $400 or $500, depending on where you live. Because it costs a lot of money to ship the ears, a lot more to ship the newsletters to Canada. And of course, you want to get the newsletters or to Britain. We have lots of UK members, Japan, Mexico, all over. And, we help people from Mexico and Japan. It's a great organization. I just can't say enough about it. We've got some tremendous honorees too, by the way, this year. We're going to have, Mick Foley, of course, is in the roast, but he's also going to receive the Iron Mike Mazurki Award. Iron Mike Mazurki was the founder of the CAC, which was founded in 1965. This should actually be our 60th reunion, and it's 59th because we missed one for COVID.
Right.
So anyway, but we're actually 60 years in business, but we're honoring Harley Race posthumously. The Bushwhackers, Luke will be there accepting on the Bushwhackers' behalf. Bob Orton Jr. is going to be the Men's Wrestling Award winner. Jazz will be the Women's Wrestling Award winner. And we've got Tom Pritchard with the Trainers Award. El Fantasma with the Lucha Libre Award. Then we have Abdullah the Butcher with the International Award. Just one of your own. The Independent Award is going to a guy named Steve Rivers from Canada.
Right.
Okay,
Steve? Cool. Yeah. I don't know Steve. We've heard of Steve. We don't know him personally, but that's very cool.
I'd love to circle back to one of the names that you mentioned there, because in about a week or two, we're going to be joined by Justin Race on our show, along with Bronwyn Billington, for a fun little conversation. And I'd love to hear some of your memories of being around Harley, and if you have any good Harley stories that are acceptable to share on the air.
Yeah, he was a great guy. And as a matter of fact, Harley helped get me the job at CAC. It was kind of between Jim Ross and I pray that Jim Ross has a very successful operation. He's got prostate cancer. What a wonderful man he is. But Harley was a unique guy. I enjoyed every time I got to be in the ring with Harley. He was such a ring general, but away from the ring, he was a lot of fun. And sometimes he was a little scary. I remember being in his white Porsche one time. I had just gone into the Kansas City territory, and Harley wanted to take me to some town we were going to. And of course, Jack Briscoe, my former best friend and one of my mentors, him and Gerald hooked me up with Harley and introduced us. But anyway, Harley takes me, we're in his Porsche, and we're going faster and faster, and we're on this country road, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm starting to get scared. I don't know whether to say anything or not. Harley, I'm really getting scared. Can you slow down? I don't know what to tell him. He wasn't drinking, but all of a sudden he goes, look, a jackrabbit. I said, what? And before I knew it, I'm looking for the jackrabbit. A gun pops up right in front of my face. Apparently it was under his seat. He pulls out this big, dirty, hairy special and rolls his window down, and all of a sudden, blam, blam, and we're going like 130 miles an hour. I mean, we are way over 100 miles an hour, just flying down this country road, and he's shooting this gun at a jackrabbit, and my ears are about to bust. And I can't believe that this guy's doing this. That was Harley Race.
Wow, what a character.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great segue to jump into your wrestling career. That's what we're here for. We need to hear stories about your illustrious career. And sometimes the best place to start is the beginning. I want to go all the way back because you sat under some learning tree. You're a learning tree yourself, but you have sat under some trees. And I think, to me, one of the earliest and one of the most interesting to me is that of Hiro Matsuda. Is there any lessons from Matsuda that you learned all those years ago that you still keep with you today?
Yeah, Matsuda really taught me desire and discipline, never to be a quitter. And that was his philosophy. Quit, boy, quit. And I still remember going there. So many people would leave there and not even want to be there. After they started the calisthenics, it would be the push-ups, the sit-ups, and the jump squats. It was on and on and on. And he would push you until well, the first 2 times I was in there, I puked both times. The third day, I roll out of the ring. I'm laying on the floor and I'm just kind of convulsing a little bit, but I didn't throw up. And he reached his foot down to the side of my face and pulled it up like this because he was always barefooted. And he looked at me right in the eye. He says, "What's the matter, boy? Puke." Like he was mad because I didn't puke. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Matsuda. I haven't eaten since the last time I puked. I don't think there's anything left." And I saw him turn like this, and I saw his ears raise. So I think he was smiling. And right after that time, he took it he notched it down a little bit, but it still hurt.
So, Brian, you're not the only famous name to be trained by Hiro Matsuda as well. Of course, Hulk Hogan famously trained by him. He had his leg broken in training. Were you around Hiro still at that time when that incident happened? And what do you remember hearing about that, or even the first time you heard about Hulk?
No, well, Terry and I have been friends since before the business, and today he's still one of my best friends in the whole world. Um, Terry called me every day I was in the hospital, every single day, to motivate me. And I'm sorry about that dog barking.
That's okay.
But anyway,
We have animal run-ins every week on our show. Two cats and a dog for me
count
over
it
here.
out, man.
Count it out.
You're
It's
be
crazy over here.
I'm gonna send the dogs after you. So, but during I started training in high school, just out of high school during the summertime, and going to play football at the University of Louisville. Well, actually, my first year I had to go to St. Leo College. That's another story, but because Tampa U folded football. Um, but the 3 summers that I trained, 3 people stayed. Many people came. That Dan Spivey came. Uh, Razor Ramon came. A lot of guys, but everybody quit. Lots of guys came. They all quit except for Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff. And Paul Orndorff graduated the summer before I came. So, and then Terry and I graduated. In other words, we went on to pro wrestling from getting stretched the same summer. But I was like 6 weeks ahead of him. Then he had his first match with me in Chiefland, Florida, in June of '77.
Is that special for you, knowing with the friendship that you guys had before the business and how you're friends so many years later that you got to have his first match?
It is special. It is very special. And because he's a special person. We're all the same. I mean, nobody's better than anybody else. We're all people, but Terry, you have to respect him for his accomplishments, which are numerous, and he just doesn't stop. I mean, I just talked to him. He's got so much stuff going on. It is just unbelievable. He's got an amateur wrestling league going. He's got a restaurant chain going. He's got
But the beer.
The beer, yeah.
Yeah, the real American beer.
Hogan's Real American Beer, yes.
For any of our younger listeners that are listening, Brian, can you try to describe what Hulkamania was like in that boom period in the mid 80s there? Because I don't think, it's like how Stone Cold was for the Attitude Era, but totally different. Like, can you try to put into words for those younger listeners the experience of Hulkamania?
Well, Hulkamania is what everybody's riding on right now, in my opinion. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan and the combination of Hulk and Vince in WrestleMania 1, we would have never made the living that we made, and the guys today wouldn't be making the money they made. When I broke in, they always taught us to respect those that paved the way for you, and I always have and always will, and a lot of the new guys do Some of them are very cocky, but for the most part, they're very good. But Hulkamania was unbelievable when Terry did the Rocky movie, and he was Thunderlips.
Thunderlips.
And, that really kind of kicked things off for him big time. And when he would talk, his promos, say your prayers and take your vitamins, and the little Hulkamaniacs, he just really connected with the kids, and the adults liked him because he was that pure baby face with a gimmick, if you will. It was like kind of like Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham, with a great body, charisma, and wrestling skill. A lot of people don't realize it, but Hulkster can get down and he can do chain wrestling. I mean, I've done it with him. I know. I mean, that's just not his gimmick, but and he knows how to handle himself, as Vern Gagne found out when he shot on Hulkster, and he knew that shouldn't be. But when he broke his leg, that happened after they put him in a mask, and he was the Super Destroyer, and he knew he wasn't going anywhere fast. I mean, they didn't know what to do with him. So he left and went to Pensacola, a couple other places, and decided to come back. And that's when he got with Matsuda, and I was in Oklahoma at the time. And apparently Matsuda broke his ankle or his leg, his lower leg by his ankle. And they used to teach us that. I mean, we had to, I used to, I really despised what they wanted us to do to these people that simply wanted to be a wrestler. I mean, some of them were real smart Alex then, and it was kayfabe, and we protected the business. But some people would come in and be a real smart Alec, and I didn't mind stretching those guys, but they wanted them always to bleed. They got to have a broken nose or a broken arm or something. So when they're at the bar bragging to their friends that they went to be a professional wrestler, that was like Eddie Graham's philosophy. Just if they're going to come to do it, you need to let the people that they bragged to, see exactly what they went through. And I just didn't like doing that, although I'm guilty to a point. But God knows I was very merciful to most of the people.
We've been lucky to talk to a lot of people who sat under some pretty legendary trainers. You with Matsuda, we've talked to many people. We got to talk to both Jim and Greg Gagne about what it was like to be in Vern's camp. In your mind, who do you think was probably the toughest of all those trainers? Vern, Stu, or Hero?
Well, I would say Hero, because Hero is the only one that actually got in there and stretched you. Whereas, I'm not taking anything away from anybody. They're all great in their own way. And, Stu and Vern would be, Vern would get Billy Robinson generally, or somebody that he had that was a good shooter or a good hooker, preferably a good hooker. And there's a big difference between a shooter and a hooker. You guys know that, right? Shooter is like an amateur wrestler. A hooker is like MMA. Stu and would show the moves a lot, and he'd have you, you'd have to let him put them on you, and you would definitely feel him. And he is a master at explanation, and he turned out some tremendous talent. I mean, to me, Bret Hart is one of the best working machines in the entire business. I mean, I loved my matches with Bret. I loved working with Bret. Single, tag team, didn't matter. He was one of my favorite opponents. And a lot of guys out of Stampede were great wrestlers. I'd go to Japan often, and Alan Koch would be there. Alan Koch, out of Stampede. But I would say really, and not just because I'm from there, that Matsuda I'd have to give him a little edge because of the fact that he, even at an older age, he was in there grinding it right with you, doing the squats, doing the push-ups.
Before we get to your time with the bees, because we have to get to your time with the bees as soon as we can. But before we get there, I want to get back to 1981 for a minute, because you just mentioned Japan. Back in 81, Vince McMahon Sr., you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Vince McMahon Sr. handpicked you to go to Japan to face Antonio Inoki in a cross-promotional show. Can you kind of take us through that trip, what that trip was like in general, and like the learning curve in Japan, and what it was like to get in the ring with Inoki himself?
Wow, it was great. It was great. I'm sitting here looking at a ticket from back then,
Wow.
and
That's a piece of history right there. That's very cool.
yeah. So yeah, it was an honor, first just to be called by Vince McMahon Sr. and for him to send me to Japan. I'll be forever grateful. I spent so much time with they were the WWF then,
Right.
and Japan is a very tough place to go and work, and especially when you're sent there to work with the top guy. And I was still green, really, 3 years in the business, 4 years. I'm still. I think you're green until you get like 5, 6 years, and you keep learning. I don't care how long you're in the business, you'll learn something. If you're paying attention, you're going to learn something after 20 years in the business. So, but I was very honored. I was nervous. I'll be honest. It was quite the honor, and obviously they liked me because I went back like 20 more times. So
Right.
it was great. Different.
Absolutely. You spent some time in a territory that I love to go back and watch old footage of, and that was world-class championship wrestling. What are some of your memories about being around the Von Erich boys and Fritz in that crazy territory?
I loved it. I lived with David for almost a year and a half. Gosh, we had so much fun together, all the boys and I. I knew the family so well. I mean, Doris, their mother, was the classiest lady you could imagine. She had food in their house. Of course, it's like a big compound. It was, and David had his house. Kerry had his house, and then they had the big house. And Kevin lived somewhere else with Pam at the time. He moved away from he had been with Pam since he was like 17, 18 years old. But and Kevin is still a wonderful friend of mine. I love him very much. Doris really helped strengthen my faith. She was a wonderful woman. She liked to talk about the Lord. She liked to cook a lot, food every night. We'd come back from the road and there was food on the stove every single night. Just a wonderful family. Living with David, I mean, there were so many wild times. Golly, I had gotten a divorce to the first woman that I was married to. I'd been married about a year, moved to Oklahoma. The only thing I took, I left everything behind except $500, my Letterman's jacket, some of my clothes, and my boat. I had a 17-foot Caravel inboard outboard boat, and they lived in Lake Dallas, right by the lake. So, needless to say, we had a great time on that boat. Hector Guerrero was just reminding me. We went out to lunch last week, and he was reminding me about the times we were skiing in Oklahoma, and the sun was coming down. It was just like glass, and how beautiful it was. And oh, we had so much fun. If that boat could talk, but
It's probably better that it doesn't, maybe.
yeah,
Maybe.
then we didn't have cell phones then. It's just, oh, so many experiences there. Golly, there's things I could say that would just blow your mind, but I just can't say them all right now. I mean, one day
That
after another was an unbelievable adventure. I mean,
I think that's the next book there, Brian. Just Tales of the Boat.
oh, well, you'll read a story in there about the pot farm. Wait till you get there.
Um, Tyler and I spend a lot of time here on this show helping push, promote, and just spread the word of the local indie territories here. We have a lot of great independent wrestling here in Ontario. One of those territories is Brantford, Ontario.
Right.
According to your book, Brantford is where you were working the night that you were told you need to come up with a name for that tag team that you and Jim just got put into together. Can you tell us about those early days with Jim and where the Killer Bees came from? And I know people, you're going to read it in the book. I'm not giving away the book, okay? I'm asking Jim to tell little snips. You want to know the rest? Go buy this book. But for now, tell us about that night in Brantford, Ontario, because it's so interesting to me that you were basically in our backyard that night.
Well, Michael, it was, I remember driving there from wherever we were because I saw the sign on the right that said, "Welcome to Brantford, home of Wayne Gretzky."
Mm-hmm.
And get to the arena. Now, prior to this, when I left WWF, I watched the transition where Vince McMahon Sr. passed the torch to Junior. Watched that. I got Tito Santana and I got Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff ready for WrestleMania 1. And believe me, he was hot. He was the hottest heel. And that's who would have, he would have actually wrestled in WrestleMania 3. Hogan had something happen to Andre. And Paul's probably should have had the belt, but he got hurt. That's another story. Anyway, so I had heard of Jimmy, but I hadn't met him. I got a call from Hulkster, and he was with Vince, and they're both on the other line. We're on landlines, and obviously, and I can hear them both talking. We're creating a tag team division, and we want you to be a major part of it. And there's a guy named Jim Brunzell. Do you know Jim Brunzell? No, I don't know Jim Brunzell. I've heard of him in the wrestling magazines and stuff. And of course, Bill Apter, who you fondly mentioned at the beginning of the show, through Bill Apter and other guys, and whom I love, by the way. Bill's a great guy. But I was a little hesitant because when I came back, I was going to go back and work for the Intercontinental title. So that seems like a step down, for me, because I'm on top in Florida heavyweight champion, doing good money, making money at home every night. And so he said, "No, this is going to be a great division. You guys will be the champions." I said, "Well, as long as you're going to give us a run and give us the belts," I said, "Yeah, I would be honored. Very humbling. Thank you very much." And so we met in Brantford, Ontario. George Scott's there. I meet Jimmy. This is maybe an hour and a half before the show, 2 hours before the show, somewhere in there. Finally, George Scott comes up, and he's the booker, George Scott, and he says, "Hey, obviously you guys are going to be a tag team, but Vince wants a catchy name, and we've got like 30 minutes. We need to get that name, and I got to go talk to Vince and do a couple things, and I'll be back. Try to think of something." And I said, "Catchy name." And he said something. You remember they were the Flyers, the High Flyers, and Jimmy and Greg. Yeah. So I got the concept, and I had remembered the Miami Dolphins, their 1982 Bonnie, their defense, the linebackers were called the Killer Bees because their last name, Baumgartner, all began with the B.
Right.
And I was a huge Miami fan, Dolphin fan. And so a couple of names were spurted out. I don't remember. I said, "What about the Bees, the Killer Bees?" And Jimmy goes, "Killer Bees, Killer Bees. I like that. That sounds great. The Killer Bees." So we're talking, and Lanny Poffo, he's down to the left, George Steele, Macho Man, all these guys are around. Haku, everybody's around, and I don't know if Haku was there. He's just seems like he's always there, but Macho, a whole bunch of talent we're all in this room, and George comes up to us, "Hey, you thought of anything yet?" And we said, "How about the Killer Bees?" He goes, "The Killer Bees, the Killer Bees. I like that. Let me see if Vince likes it." So he walks away. He comes back, and he said, you guys are officially the Killer Bees. And I said, oh,
Nice.
that's awesome, the Killer Bees. And Lanny goes, that's great. He reached down, he's got a big hockey bag. And I mean, he has more gimmicks in there than you can imagine. He pulls out these tights and they're black and yellow striped tights. And so we actually wore those tights. Lanny had 2 pairs of Killer
Oh my
Bee
God.
tights.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. And that's how the Killer Bees were born.
Wow. That's crazy. And then I want to stick kind of with because we're a couple guys from Toronto here, so let's stick with this Toronto area. If I'm not mistaken, was it Billy Red Lions that helped come up with the mask idea as well?
I was just thinking about that, Tyler, exactly, because you can't, they kind of go hand in hand. When you're talking about who helped the Killer Bees, uh, we were doing interviews in Ontario and in Toronto, and Billy Red Lions was part of the crew, and he said that him and his brother used to, they were, even though they were heels, they would wear masks because they were pretty close to the same size, and they would switch and it would get a lot of heat, you know, and I could see where that would get a lot of heat. And he said, I think you guys are such good baby faces that you guys could get away with this as baby faces if you let the heels get enough heat. So we thought about it, talked about it. We had Olivia Walker make our first mask, and lo and behold, we did it. We did it on Saturday night main event with the Heart Foundation in California, and the people popped. I mean, they popped like crazy. So mass confusion was born.
It's impressive, and I was talking about this right before you jumped on with Tyler. I told him, I said, we have to talk about this, how impressive it is that you were able to do it as baby faces. It's such, on paper, it's a heel tactic. It's such a bad guy thing to do. You know, we saw it famously done later on, not as famous as you obviously, but later on, people would take it from you, like the Basham brothers and people would do, or the
The
Bellas.
Bella
People
twins,
do,
yeah.
yeah, they would do it as twins instead of masks, but they were always heels when they did it. It took somebody very special like you and Jim to be able to basically cheat like that and still get people to not to turn on you. That, you know, you're a amazing baby face when people are really behind you, when you can get away with that. That's very impressive to me.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that because it is very true. What you said is 100% true. It takes a lot. You have to really establish your opponents as heels, where the people really, they don't care how you win. They want you to win by hook or by crook or any way you can win. And this is before the Attitude Era. So it took
Right.
more, you know, so, you know, now it's almost easy to be a baby face if you're a heel working against another heel.
Yeah, right. Stone
So
Cold kind of made it easier for all the good guys to be bad guys and vice versa.
right,
But
right,
but
right.
but in the 80s, in your heyday, it was very black and white. You were a good guy or you were a bad guy, and that's it. So for you to be able to get away with that, that's amazing to me.
Well, we were innovators, you know, we wore the
You
first tennis
really were.
shoes. I know uh, the guys, AEW tag team, the Youngbloods, said that they were the first tag team to wear tennis shoes, but they weren't. Obviously, nothing against the Youngbloods. I think they're great talent, but the Killer Bees were the first people to wear tennis shoes in Nike Dunks in WrestleMania 3 and also in the Frank Tunney tournament, which we won as well. And, you know, bandanas, wristbands. Uh, we did a lot of innovative things, and of course, Jumping Jim had the best drop kick in the business as
Damn
far
right he did.
as,
Yes.
and yeah, it was fun. We were speaking to Mick Foley. I'll never forget. You know, I actually was the one that knocked Mick Foley's tooth out when it was during his third match, and Jimmy tagged me. It was Foley and Terry Gibbs, and it was actually Mick's third match. And so the finish was Jimmy. Uh, I told Mick beforehand. I said, Mick, you know, whatever you do, you know, make sure you're. I'm going to come off the ropes after Jimmy drop kicks you. I'm going to come off the ropes, and I get high in the air, but make sure that you tuck yourself in and just kind of lift off the mat just a few inches to absorb the blow. And so, okay, and I uh, throw him into the We tag, throw him into the rope. Jimmy hits him with a drop kick, tag back. I hit the rope just as I'm in midair. I mean, I am in midair, and Mick sits up like Undertaker, and I have no control. So he got a mouthful of scrotum and booty, and landed right on his face. And I went, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." I turned down and I said, "Oh, Mick, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He's going, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I can't believe it. So we'll come back, and he's comes walking. Mick Foley walked towards me. He walked the same way then. And I look, and I didn't know at the time that his tooth was knocked. And it comes back, and he's smiling. Blood's coming from his mouth. His tooth's knocked back. I felt so terrible. And he was just so respectful and so thankful. And just, anyway, tough guy.
That's a
Poor-
great story.
Poor Mick Foley, he got beat up by all the animals in the WWF because
He sure
he famously got roughed up by the Bulldogs too. So he had the bees and the Bulldogs knocking him around in those early days.
So you said two things that makes me want to segue to this question. First, a while back, you talked about how when you and Jim were put together, you were told that they were creating this tag team division. And create a tag team division did they ever do? Because as far as I'm concerned, the late 80s in the WWF is one of my favorite times of tag team wrestling. Another thing you said was that you and Jim were innovators, and damn right you were. As impressive as it was that you did one thing that shouldn't have worked on paper, like mass confusion, you did something else that I feel on paper should not have been good. And that's your match at Survivor Series 1987. You're going to put 20 men into a ring. And the first thing I think is cluster. I'm thinking this is going to be confusing. It's not going to be good. Doesn't matter what they do. This match can't be good. But you put in 10 of the greatest tag teams in WWF history. Do you remember much about that night and how proud you must have been that you actually pulled off a great match that night?
Yes, I do, Michael. It was, I thought the same thing. And one thing that I said to everybody is that we all have to respect the referee. If we don't respect the referee,
good call.
It is going to be a cluster mess. And so everybody agreed. That was my one tip to everybody. And so everybody we were all professionals. We all worked hard. We got the concept and pulled it off. But I think a lot of it had to do with making sure that the people knew that the referee had the authority. I believe that wasn't there two referees.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who the ref was that night, and I can't remember. I watched that match recently too.
It's Dave Hebner is the one in the ring.
Was it Hebner? Okay.
Yeah, Dave Hebner's in the ring. I can't tell who the guy on the floor is, but I couldn't make that one out.
Right, but and Dave was a very, very, very good referee. The referee's important.
100%.
Oh, and apparently he's important to the match, because if you just said pay attention to the referee, listen to the referee. He called that match for you guys, because how do you listen to 20 different guys trying to call their spots and trying to call the match?
No, he doesn't call the match.
Sorry, what I meant is he keeps order, and you're going off him, right? So
and he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
referee's got to know what's going to happen as far as the finish goes. And the most important thing about a referee is that you basically don't even want to notice him, other than the count, or when he's involved. When the wrestlers are wrestling, the referee should be invisible almost, and out of the match. And Hebner did a great job at that.
Another really unique match that you got to be a part of, you mentioned being a big football fan earlier, was WrestleMania 2's Battle Royal. What was it like trying to welcome, as at this time in the business, it's still very protected, right? And so what was the atmosphere like welcoming these NFL stars in. I would imagine the boys probably had their back up a little bit about it. How interesting was it to put that match together and work with those guys?
It was great. As a matter of fact, I got a picture I wish I had for you. It's got the refrigerator, Perry, all the guys, Freilich, all the guys that were from the Bears and a bunch of the wrestlers, all of us together. Very unique photo. And it was a lot of fun. It was interesting because the Bears, they were a little bit cocky. And then Bill Freilich was a state champion, big, strong guy, offensive lineman for the Bears. And he wanted to amateur wrestle the Sheik. And of course, Cosroe doesn't turn down anybody. And boy, Cosroe stretched the heck out of him, made him holler. And that was great. They all had a whole new respect after that. And a guy that I played football with at Louisville, Otis Wilson, came that night. And I got to talk to Otis for a while, and Ozzy Osbourne and a few other people. But it was a great event. And we can finish talking about this, but please don't forget the big event.
Oh, that was next
Oh,
on my
that's
list, of
next.
course.
Exactly. We can't not talk about, if we're going to talk about Toronto, we're going to talk about that night. I know you have a specific question, Tyler. Please go for it.
Well, let's take us back to that night. Exhibition Stadium, Mr. Wonderful and Hulk Hogan are headlining the event. You guys are in the ring with the Funk Brothers, Haas and Dory Funk, I believe. Jim said on our show that it was the biggest crowd he's ever worked in and one of the greatest nights of his career. What are your memories of being in Toronto that night?
It was amazing. First off, Toronto, and I'd like to take the opportunity to for all the Toronto listeners um, for being so supportive because of all the towns in the world. And I'm talking about 50 countries we've been to, 40 countries. In every state in the United States, Toronto was our favorite town, and the fans made it our favorite town. Um, Everything we did was over there. And that night, Vince wanted to start the show off. He said, I have got to have he was giving us our coach's pep talk. This is a great night. We have a great opportunity being filmed for Coliseum Video. We have got to start on fire and finish on fire. If we don't start this show 100% and blah blah blah, and so we got the motivation. He put the Funks and the Bees on first to set the tone, and that match, largely due to Dory Funk Jr., was one of the best matches, feeling matches. You feel the aura of the people, but it was like they were with us for every second of that time we were in the ring. You could feel the fans just feeling our emotions and feeling what we were doing. I mean, God, I remember Dory backed me into the corner with him and Jimmy Jack to double team me, and I just fought and nailed Jimmy Jack and nailed Dory, and back and forth till they both fell out of the ring, and the people came unglued. I mean, on the first night, they came unglued, and just it was a great night.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. To see one of my favorite tag teams in our own neck of the woods. I wish I was alive, but I wasn't around to see it. Now, hopefully, one of these days we're going to have to do a part 2 to this, Brian, because I know we're starting to run out of time here, and both of us have barely hit a dent in our questions. We love your story so much. Well, hopefully we'll do this again one day. But while we wrap it up, we always love to end our show in a very positive manner. Tyler will take it home with a question he asks every guest. Before he does that, I have a positive question as well. I would like to know if you could go back in time to meet your 20-year-old self and give him some advice, both for in the ring and outside of the ring as a man. What would you tell yourself?
I would say not only to be a good listener, because I was a good listener, but never fear to speak up about what is on your mind, as long as you can state it in a positive manner.
I like that.
In other words, if you've got an idea, if you've got a complaint, if you have a suggestion, um, don't be afraid because you learn something from everybody. And maybe the ideas that you think your boss might think is stupid may turn out to be one of the best angles or best things that you've ever set. So don't be fearful, remain humble, and never be a thief. Always respect, never mess with somebody's girlfriend or their significant other. And just be a good listener and respect everybody, including the fans, because that's who pays your salary. You respect them as much as you respect everybody else.
Like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brian, before we start to bring it home here, I gotta ask you really quick, what's your current relationship like with the WWE? Many fans and ourselves included, we think that the Killer Bees are long overdue for a Hall of Fame induction. I know
Mhm.
Jim said on our show that he blames himself for you guys not being in because he had a little bit of a rocky relationship with Vince, to say mildly. But we have a new regime now. Triple H has taken over. How's your rapport with the WWE right now? And do you think that we could finally see the long overdue induction of the Bees in that Hall of Fame?
I do. I do. I have a great relationship with WWE. They've been helping the CAC now for ever since I've been on board. They fly their talent out. They buy a table. They're big sponsors of the Cauliflower Alley Club, and they actually send us people at times to help that they want to keep arm's length with. And so I have a great rapport with most of the guys there. I've yet to meet Mr. Khan, but everybody else, I was just with Triple H at the Royal Rumble last year in Tampa here. But they've been great to the CAC. They've been great to me. Yes, Jimmy had his moments where I just shook my head and I had to say, "Oh boy, that's not going to be good for the bees." But anyway, I could tell you some stories, but we could save that for next time, maybe. But there were a few times when I thought, "Oh, Jimmy, why did you say that?" But why did you do that? Him and Jesse tried to start a union. That's a whole nother story. Uh,
Jim, Jim,
Uh,
Jimmy told a funny story on the show where he said to Vince, "Hey Vince, I got an idea. Why don't I go out and cut a promo on you and tell you how terrible you are and how much you suck, and then you can beat me on all the house show loops." Vince was like, I don't think so, Jim."
oh
Oh,
my God.
that's
oh,
one thing about Jimmy. I love Jimmy, and he's blunt. He'll tell the truth, and that's, sometimes it's like when Vince pulled out the Killer Bees T-shirt, the first Killer Bees T-shirt, and he was so excited. He said the merchandising was just starting for the guys. We got LJN action figures, those things like that. So they made this new Killer Bee T-shirt real quick, and Vince pulls this. He says, "You guys are gonna be surprised. Gonna be surprised." He's got it behind his back. He got it behind his back. Okay, okay, we're ready. He pulls it out, and he's got a big old smile on his face. And I looked at it, and I went, "Wow, oh, awesome!" And I really didn't understand it. And Jimmy goes, "What the hell is that?"
Love it.
To his boss, who's so excited about that. You don't say, "What the hell is that?" Your boss is excited. You need to be excited.
oh my God, that's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
Brian, I know it's the sign of a great interview when I didn't ask you any questions that I wrote down. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Before I ask my last question, I want to do one more plug for you guys because us here in Canada, we're going to be very spoiled with the Killer Bees over the next little while. You guys are going to be in Gatineau, Quebec for 80s WrestleCon with Jim. And then I believe we're going to be seeing you guys in late September up in Hamilton again for September 20th, I believe, for another Comic-Con. So make sure if you're in the Toronto area that you come see the Killer Bees. I have personally met the Killer Bees at a Comic-Con. It is a great time. You guys were so entertaining. I'll tell you a story off air because I think Jim made a joke that maybe I shouldn't say on air to me and my now wife that we had a kick about, but we still talk about to this day. So I want to make sure to get all those plugs in. And the last question I want to ask you before we wrap it up, Brian, you've done so many incredible things in not only your career but your career after wrestling with the Cauliflower Club. what are some personal moments for you that you just think back on and they make you smile from your time in the wrestling business?
Oh God, there's so many from WrestleMania 3, winning the Florida Championship the first time, the Florida Heavyweight title, winning my first tag team belts with Bob Guy with in Bob Geigel's territory in Kansas City with Bulldog Bob Brown. I think everybody did that. Um, so many wonderful, wonderful being inducted into the CAC Hall of Fame, being inducted into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Iowa. So many wonderful accolades in the wrestling industry. I just can't mention them all, but being elected to county commission, countywide, 1.5 million people in Hillsborough County, selling my Gold's gyms when they weren't for sale. That was a very, very good thing. Just watching my family, thinking about my son who is gone, my older son who is gone now. It's not a joyous thought, but it's a happy thought that the times we spent together. And I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ, in God, and I pray to God through Christ every day. And I am very proud to be a Christian, a man of faith. And I love everybody, and I wish everybody sincerely nothing but good things.
Perfect. I think that's the perfect place to take us home. What do you think, Mike?
I couldn't agree more. Hopefully we can do this again. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the stars will align. Maybe we'll get you and Jim together on here one day.
That'd be great.
And that would be so fun, much fun for us. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our listeners, on behalf of Tyler, thank you so much, Mr. Blair. It was an honor to talk to you today. Guys, go to, I believe it's killerbees.net to get all your Killer Bees needs. Go check them out, all those shows that Tyler told you about. Hit like and subscribe on this podcast right here. Tell your friends you just listened to Brian Blair on the Counted Out Show, because they're going to want to hear it too. And until next week, my friends, you have been counted out.